I don't know if I'm going to do a whole lot of, if any, turning, but so tonight's demo is on doing inside out Christmas ornaments. Same process, whether you're doing a Christmas ornament or you do the same thing, bigger, you still can do an inside out thing to set on your table or whatever you're going to do. Same concept, it's just the Christmas ornaments obviously are a little bit smaller than some of the other ones that I've seen on YouTube and stuff. So I sell a lot of these at my or at my craft shows or whatever. I will say they're probably the least profitable thing because of the amount of time that's involved in them. So these things I take with me because when someone says, how did you get that lighthouse or that snowman or that Christmas tree inside here, and you start to explain the process, and within 10 seconds you can tell that it's, completely lost. So I'm going to pass these around, but so each one of these, so there's a 3/4 by 3/4 square piece of wood, and I use double-sided tape to get them together, and then I put the tie wraps on it just because when you put it in between centers and you're turning this part, obviously it's for safety so they don't fly apart on you or whatever. But you turn, depending on what you're going to put inside here, this shape may change or a little bit. So you want to make sure that whatever you're going to put inside here, that you know how long it needs to be, how deep it needs to be, so it'll fit when you're done. But anyway, you turn this, and then once this is done, you cut your tie wraps, you pull it apart, and you flip each piece 2 times. And as you flip it, here's this. When you flip it, now your inside part, or the part that was on the outside, is now on the inside. Obviously, you sand it and finish that part because it's going to be inside. No, because when I do them, as soon as I flip them, I'm gluing them together. So I don't, yes, you can to know, which one goes where. But so now this, you permanently glue these together, and you permanently glue this one together. So that now you've got 2 pieces like that. And then right before you permanently glue this, these are, like I personally do little snowmen, Christmas trees, and lighthouses are the 3 things I do. So you set that in there, put this together, you permanently glue that like this. And then once you get this done and it's dry, what I do, this is just me, you don't have to do this, but I run this through my table saw and take the corners off so that when you put it on the lathe, you're not catching the big corners and stuff. It just makes it a little easier to turn. So this is like a lot of the things I do, I glue wood up just to give more color to the piece. But this is just walnut and pin oak, so it's just a solid piece. Same thing. This is actually a little smaller than 3/4, so this one's going to be, a little bit smaller diameter. But this is kind of where I start off before I put it on my lathe. So Monday, I turned this, had the piece pretty much like what we got there, and I turned all this section up to here. I was going to finish this off, but I really don't think I need to. I mean, pretty much everybody here knows how to turn things. It's just whatever design that you're looking for the top of your Christmas ornament, you just finish this off, and then the finish that I use on this is this hut wax. So while this is turning, you're just taking this hut wax and just running it, through here, getting the hut wax on her, and you're kind of burnishing this into the wood. And then you use a paper towel, come back in these little crevices here. what I was doing is using my paper towel and taking the skew and make the paper towel pretty thick, and then I would just take that up in these things just to get that little bit of the wax that you can't get off with your fingernail, you know. Then I go back, that first one this is supposed to be semi-gloss. This is supposed to be gloss. I guarantee you if you do use these and you use this is going to look identical if you use this. There's not that much of a difference. So I end up putting this on and go behind it and put the high gloss on it. Tyler, when he does a lot of his turnings, this was Monday, I just asked him tonight, I thought when he did his skew that he rounded both sides, but he says he keeps this side pointed and rounds the heel side off, and sometimes a little bit more than that. Anyway, so I'd ground this down Monday thinking this is how he did it. And the way he uses a skew, I tried it and I accomplished it, but not near as quick as he does. So I just set this up on my tool rest and would go this way and come back and do this to get when you're using this versus how I normally do it is with a skew horizontally scraping or a round nose. And with this on edge, when you're cutting in this direction, you almost don't even need to sand it. It really turns it down to be really smooth. The only thing that you may have to look at is if as you're cutting, there might be a spot where you came back and went at it again, and there might be just a slight edge there, but it's very little sanding on these when I use this versus what I normally used to do. So again, I personally, and this was on a YouTube video, and they sell super good to women, that if I point out to them that the end of this is a martini glass and that this section right here is a wine glass, immediately they're like, that's the one I want. 90% of them. Now, I'm not saying all women drink wine or whatever, but a lot of these that I do, like, so here's some examples of finished ones. One of that one's got a lighthouse. This one has a Christmas tree, and this one has a snowman.
Do you ever hang them inside? So that, you know.
Most of the people that buy these aren't hanging them on a tree. I started selling them after a few of the people that bought them seen the ones that I started making, but I'll make a holder, and I just take a piece of, like I've got some out of walnut, some out of cedar, and I cut like say it's a branch about, I don't know, that big around, and instead of cutting it directly this way, I cut it at an angle so that your bark on the edges are like this, so you can see that raw edge of one of them. And I'll just sand them down real good and make a disc, and then I drill a small hole, and I use brazing rod and silver solder rods, and I just cut them to the length, and they go down in it, and I just bring them off of that piece of wood kind of up at an angle like this and around, and then I put a little loop in it, and then that way you can take that and hang it, and that they just put it on their table at Christmas time or whatever. Some people have said they leave them out all year round. Same thing with some of the trees and snowman that I make. They say they don't ever take them down, they just leave them. But so those are kind of the process of the inside out ornaments. And like I said, I've seen videos that was pretty cool. A guy did the same thing with maple, all four, it was just solid maple. And the guy, I think it was 2 inches. Each one of them were 2 inches. So the whole thing was 4 inches. Okay. So he did the same process, and the top end of his, he turned it to make a lid, and then the inside of it, he made a snowman and like permanently affixed it inside this. And then in the lid, he put one of those battery operated LED lights. So when you put the lid down on it, that light would shine down onto the snowman. It was pretty cool. But again, these are for Christmas ornaments. So obviously you're going to make them smaller. You can make an inside out turning however big you really want to do it. You know, just you got to know what you're going to put inside it and what the shape you want it to be, you know, to know how big your first turning is going to be, so that when you flip it, it's what you want. So
you were saying though that when you sell them, you really don't get, you know, like
I sell these for $45.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
And
but it takes you a lot longer.
By the time now that one out there that's just out of pin oak and walnut, I mean that's just a matter of cutting 4 pieces to a certain size, and then I run it through my planer so I have 4 sides that are smooth, so that when I do finally glue it up permanently, that it's going to be a solid joint and you're not going to see that glue joint. You know what I mean? But these other ones that I, you know, glue up 3 different pieces of wood for 1 piece of that. I mean, there's a lot of time just in glue up before you ever do anything. I mean, to get it to the pieces that I got out there that aren't turned yet, I mean, you got probably 2 hours just in, you know, prepping your piece up, you know, you got to turn the little snowman, the Christmas trees, all that kind of stuff before you even start doing it. They're I do real well, especially at Christmas time, selling these. And same thing with these sea urchin ones that I do. But, you know, it's just, if I didn't like doing it, I probably wouldn't be doing it, because it's definitely not very profitable. And that's kind of what I tell people when they're buying them. You know, that once these, like those ones that I got floating around out there, I've probably got about maybe 30, I think, of those left. And after I'm done with them, I don't know that I'm going to really do them anymore, to just have in stock, just because they're not very profitable. So, and then these 2 are the sea urchin Christmas ornaments, and I'll explain to you a little bit how I do these. And it was all a YouTube video, because I used to see these live in the ocean when I was a diver in the Navy. And I mean, first off, you don't ever want to get close to them, because the black tentacle things that are not tentacles, but they're little spikes that stick off of here. They're like a fish hook. And if you hit that and it goes in you, you're not going to pull it out. You're going to have to get a knife or go to medical and have them cut it out. And because that's a live organism, if you don't get all of it, it'll start growing inside your skin and cause all kinds of problems. Those things are super fragile. The one in your left hand is called a Sputnik sea urchin. The other ones it's just different species of.
Different oceans too.
I don't know about that, to be honest with you. The ones I always saw was the Sputnik ones. But like, here's a couple other, and I get these off of Amazon. Is where I buy them. But like, here's another color. It's similar to that one there, but it's just different colored. And then this is the same thing. They're just different. And when you order these, you pretty much are getting whatever they send to you, but it's a pretty decent. Usually I get like 3 distinctly different colors when I order these.
They already have the holes in it like that?
Well, I'm going to go over that here in a minute, but what you're seeing here, see how that's a perfect circle? That ain't how they come. All right, and then I use a roto zip, or I mean not a roto zip, a Dremel tool, and clean it out. In fact, That was up here and I don't see it. Yeah, that. I don't think I need to turn it on because I think you guys all know it spins. But I'll show you one that is not. I think I had one in here that still isn't. So, if you can see that,
Yeah.
okay, that's solid. It's pretty brittle. You could probably take your thumb and like that right there. I just did that. Now, it's not a perfect circle, so I'll take that roto zip or Dremel and stick this. I just use like the stone. It's like a cone.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
So that's what I use. And you just sit there and go around until you get it. Plus, when I turn these, I take a caliper and measure this opening. And then when I'm turning the finial part for this ain't the right one, but then this one fits in there, okay? But if I turn this, I try to make them fairly tight. And if this is just a little bit too big, what I do is just take that and just lightly take a little bit more off of it until this fits in there. This here is about what you want. This one's a little small for this finial though. So this one is for this. So this finial, and then again, these, you're limited to this hole size. If that hole size is however big, then this has to be however big to cover that hole. And then, I'm sorry, that ain't the right one. It was for this one. And this is exactly what I was talking about. I made this tight, so this don't quite fit into that. So I'll take that Dremel, round that out a little bit. And then especially on these Sputniks, if you, right here on the edges, see these little bumps on right on the edge of the hole here? I end up taking that and grinding those nubs down because you want this to fit as close to the shell as you can to hide, you know, to hide it from seeing how they put it. And all you do, or all I do, is take hot glue and put like 4 dots around here. And then I take it, put it in there and just twist a little bit, let it set up. And then a lot of times you'll get, you know, on the hot glue gun, the little stringy things and I just take a razor knife and just slightly score it, and that stuff will peel right off of the shell, right off of the wood. And then, you know, this would go on here, and that would go on there, and that would be your end product. But the funny thing was when I first heard about these, and me knowing what a sea urchin is, and I'm thinking to myself, how the heck you turn that into a crisp? There's no possible way you could turn that. It would immediately disintegrate. Well, obviously you don't put that on the lathe and turn it, but that's the way I was thinking when they first said it. I'm like, I don't see how that's going to happen. But anyway, so that's how you finish those up. This is another one that I turned out of cedar. So this one will be the same as, obviously, as this piece. And what I try to do is make them out of different types of wood. And like for a cedar one, I would look for something a little bit lighter colored like this so that the cedar will accent the sea urchin. I don't know that I would want to put maybe that one on there, but then again, if you look at that color really matches this cedar. So, but this would be too long, in my opinion, for that size of sea urchin. You would want it a little bit shorter and thinner, you know. A what?
Cedar urchin.
Yeah. And again, on these things, I use that hut wax because being this is a Christmas ornament, you're only gonna have your hands on it for a short period of time, you know, and then it's gonna be back in a box or back storage until the following Christmas. Or if you leave it out, you're not gonna be touching it. They show that in Penn State's magazine as a finish to put on pens. I don't know that I would do that because I think the oils on your hands eventually is gonna, and you're gonna see like oil stains on the pens and stuff like that. But on this kind of stuff and the Christmas trees and the snowmen and lighthouses that I make just as a decoration to put on your table, I mean this stuff I put that on my rolling pins. You know, I put that on a lot of stuff just because it's quick and easy, and it really gives you a real nice finish on your product. So that's really about pretty cheap. I mean, I think like I get anywhere between $1.50, $2 a piece maybe. I mean, I don't order them one. I order like a 24 pack or a 12 pack or whatever, and they're usually around $1.50, $2, $3 tops.
Do you ever have them come and they're all broke?
I've had one that it wasn't really broke, but it was cracked, and I didn't use it because I knew it was gonna break, and then sure as I would take it and sell it to somebody, and they'd come back and say, "Hey, this thing broke," you know. So I just didn't even use it.
On your sea urchins, do you try to connect the top to the bottom in
No.
any way?
No, and there's really no, well, I don't see how you would be able to do that.
There's a dowel or something like that I had heard, and I don't with mine.
I mean, if you
either.
did that, I mean, you could, but you would have to have those holes. I mean, and the thing is with these sea urchins, the hole that's already there existing, it may not be perpendicular with the hole that's on the bottom. I mean, it's not like it was made. It was, you know, it's just a creature in the ocean, so it could be a little bit off. Sometimes I have to make my holes like a little bit bigger to make them more concentric. I don't know if that's right, to be in line with one another, because you don't want to hang it and look at it and here's your top and your bottom is slightly offset where your finial goes into it. So you want the two holes to match up, pretty close when you're doing. And the same thing, that's why on those you need to grind those little nubs off, because if you slide that up there, and I always test fit it first before I ever put the glue on. You slide that thing up and your finial, like here's your sea urchin like this, and your finial might be sitting like that. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure you get those nubs ground off so that finial is sitting perfectly, you know, perpendicular to it.
Cindy Drones just got some nice videos on doing those.
Yeah. There's her Ashley or
Ashley Harwood.
yes. She and what's good about hers is she's not too bad to look at either. That makes the video a lot better, you know. But she's the one that I watched make the hanger. She makes her own hangers for her sea urchin ornaments, and watch the videos. I mean, she is phenomenal on especially small, intricate finials and stuff. She's pretty good at that. But these things, I don't have any more of them. When I bought these, I bought the blue. These are actually a bluish purple tint to this. And they also have these same exact ones that have pink in them. So, you know, it's nice to have a variety of colors, because, you know, somebody might like pink, not blue, you know. But I probably got 20 25 of those in my box that I take to the craft shows, and I've probably got about 30 of these that are already made up. And then I have a tree that's like an octagon center, and then pieces coming off of it at different spots. And then I have little hooks on there, and that's where I have those on my table to hang them so they, you know, you can see. I don't lay them out on the table. I hang them on the little tree, which you can see them a little bit better. But I don't know, is there any questions on anything on the process?
What do you use for the hooks to hang?
I buy them at Menards. They're just a little tiny eye, and you can buy them, you know, real, like the ones I use are mostly this size. I've got bigger ones, but they just look too bulky. And these, I just take a drill with a bit, and if I don't have it already done, I'll just drill a hole in it, put the screw in, and I do the same thing. I had people, like I'd make little tiny Christmas trees and snowmen just as an ornament, and some of the people were asking me, do you have any like this that don't have the eyelet in them, that they wanted to put them just out or on their mantle or whatever? So on the smaller ones, like anything about this big or smaller, I don't put those in it. I have that drill with me, and if somebody says, can you make this into an ornament, then I can just drill it, put the eyelet in it, and give it to them as an ornament. So, but again, all the sea urchin stuff I buy on Amazon, and it's pretty, those are a little quicker than what the inside out are definitely more time consuming. But I sell the sea urchin and those for the same price, so I'm making more off the sea urchin ones than I am the inside out ones. So,
Well, thank you, Tim.
yep. I guess I never said this, but it does help to have it. I have turned them on centers, but when I would do this, I would leave, you know, this much of my, you know, the point out here somewhere, and then at the very end, I would take it off here, and then on this side, or I'd leave it just a little bit and part this off, and then take this and just cut it with a saw or snap it and then sand it. But it's a lot easier to do the whole thing in a chuck. So you got to make this one is, I don't know if you can tell, not a whole lot of room to go any type. So if you made this blank any smaller like that, this one, I don't think will fit in any of the chucks that we have here, because it won't go down that small. What I have done, but I don't think it would work the way I'm doing it, I have put electrical tape around this and jammed it in there and tightened it down, but there's still some, you know, I'd want to keep my tailstock on that when I'm turning it, but then at least I could get this, when I was ready to do it, I could trim that off, and this would still be in the chuck, and I could part it off. But that's about the only way I've ever been able to do these, is by wrapping tape around it, which is probably not the safest thing to do.